Welcome to your freefall lifeboat training. I'm your virtual coxswain, and I'll guide you through the procedures for the safe embarkation and launching of this craft. It's essential that you pay attention, as this activity is extremely hazardous in a real-world situation. Are you ready to continue? Good. If you want me to repeat my last set of instructions, just hit the repeat icon, but make sure you have fully understood each step before moving on. As I guide you through the training, I will highlight in blue items that you need to know. The location of these items might not be immediately apparent. Look down at your left wrist. The compass you see will also indicate the direction of the item to assist you in finding it. Look down to the deck around you and you'll see a glowing blue cube. This is what objects will look like when I highlight them for you. Notice how your wrist compass also tracks the location of the cube. Point and click at the cube with your controller to show me that you found it. I may ask you to move to a specific location or towards a piece of equipment. You will see these highlighted in blue when relevant. Simply click to interact or move towards something. For example, the hatchway is now highlighted. Point and click on it to move towards it. Before arriving at the muster point, you may have been provided with a survival suit or life jacket. Keep these on unless I instruct you otherwise. If you arrive at the muster station without this equipment, it may be provided for you. Ensure that you are still familiar with the procedure for donning both a survival suit and a life jacket. If you are unsure, see your onboard safety officer or representative immediately. When I'm happy that everyone is properly dressed and equipped, I will tell everyone to enter the craft in a set order. This is not decided by rank, role, or department. It is under my instruction only. Normally, you will simply be instructed to board the vessel and secure yourself in the seat I assign to you. You may also have to assist with the operation of some equipment on board which you need to be familiar with. The first of these is the hatch. Opening the hatch is simple. Turn each of the 4 highlighted handles counterclockwise to open the hatch. You probably noticed that you had to lean down a long way to open the hatch, so take care when you do this for real. Make sure you support yourself using all available grab rails, and try to avoid leaning over the open hatchway whenever possible. If we are embarking anyone who is injured or incapacitated, then I will instruct that they are boarded first. You must always turn and enter the craft backwards. I've highlighted in blue handholds that you may choose to use in a real-world scenario. Remember to use all available handholds both around the hatch and inside the craft. I'll automatically move you through the craft. Turn around and face away from the hatch. When I give the entry command, click the Enter Craft button. Okay? Enter the craft. You may have to board the craft at night and in poor weather conditions. Once inside the craft, you will find that space is limited and it may be dark. Move directly and safely to your assigned seat. Do not stop in the aisle and always watch your head. Do not be pressured or rushed by those behind you or those already seated. If you fall or injure yourself by rushing, you will only delay the launching of the craft for all. You're now inside the craft at the aft end. Take a quick moment to look around and orientate yourself. Look towards the hatchway and you'll see a casualty on a stretcher being embarked. It's vital that we do this correctly. There is a reason that they are already strapped to a stretcher that you may not be aware of, and in all cases, we must assume that they have a spinal injury. Normally, a medical doctor would accompany the casualty. Remember that there are different types of stretcher and different variables that may change how this is done in practice. The stretcher is moved into position and secured as shown. It is important that both the stretcher and the casualty are secured together to the seat using the straps as shown. This must be done correctly prior to the launch of the craft. Once you're in your assigned seat, the first thing you must do is fasten your harness. It's essential that you do this as soon as you reach your seat. This is how you fasten your seatbelt on this particular craft. This process may differ depending on the manufacturer and model of craft, but you will normally find instructions on the seat back in front of you. Once secured in your seat, do not undo your seatbelt or move seats for any reason, unless instructed to do so by me. Some pieces of equipment can only be accessed by passengers located in specific seats. In this case, I have directed you to the seat at the midships of the craft that has access to the bilge pump. Look around and you will see the bilge pump. This is used if too much water enters the lifeboat and we need to pump it back out. Prior to operating this, we may need to close a bilge drain valve. The location of the valve may differ depending on the lifeboat type and manufacturer. Now, take hold of the bilge pump handle. Push and pull it back and forth at least 10 times. This action sucks water from the bilges and pumps it back overboard. Good. In practice, you may have to continue doing this for some time. Also at this location is the compressed air valve that controls the additional air supply for the vessel. If you are seated here, I may also ask you to operate this. The compressed air system gives no less than 10 minutes of additional breathing air for all on board. After this time, external air will be supplied. It must be manually activated. Prior to launching, if I need you to operate this valve, I will give you a clear command of air on. When I say this, you must operate this valve to activate the air supply. Ready? Air on. Once you have turned the valve on, you must let me know by stating clearly back to me, air on. Good. Once this valve has been opened and the air is flowing, leave it on and don't touch it unless I tell you otherwise. Next, let's look at one of the storage lockers which are located under the deck plates in the aisle. This is only one of the lockers available in this lifeboat. Various equipment is stored in these lockers such as first aid equipment, food, water, and pyrotechnics. Reach down and touch to open the locker. This is where some of the provisions, first aid supplies, and other equipment are stored. Different craft may have different types and quantities of equipment depending on distance to land and administration exemptions. Turn and face forward towards the ladder in the aisle. We're now going to move to the helm station. Click on the ladder to climb upwards. Normally only I'll be seated in this position, but I've situated you here for training purposes to show you the location of certain pieces of equipment that you may have to use in an emergency. First, let's look at the primary release mechanism of this lifeboat. This is a hand-operated hydraulic pump that triggers the release mechanism of the craft. It's important that you do not touch or obstruct this lever. In front of you, you will see the helm controls. You do not need to remember what everything does, aside from two pieces of important equipment. The first is the VHF radio that I would use to contact the emergency agencies, normally on channel 16. Also located at the helm position is the main interior light. Turn this on. Good. Now select the ladder to move back down into the main passenger compartment. Now we need to go to the back of the craft where more equipment is located. Click the aft hatch to move in that direction. Look around. You'll see the secondary release located next to the aft hatch. The only time that you should touch this is if you are sitting in this seat and I give you a command of primary release failed, secondary release required. Is this clear? To operate this, first remove the protective cover. Good. Now insert the handle into the socket and rotate it clockwise. You may have to reinsert it and rotate it a number of times. Good. Next, let's look at the emergency steering tiller located near the aft hatch. To use this, you remove the emergency steering tiller and insert it into the designated socket and follow my instructions. Next, let's look at the EPIRB. The location of an EPIRB can change based upon the lifeboat. For this lifeboat, it is located near the aft hatch. This is an EPIRB, or Emergency Positioning Indicating Radio Beacon. This is a type of emergency location device. It is a portable, battery-powered radio transmitter used in emergencies. When the EPIRB is activated, it begins to transmit a continuous radio signal, which is used by search and rescue teams to quickly locate us. Touch the EPIRB to show me you know where to find it. Good. Let's look at the sprinkler valve next. This is the water sprinkler valve. It's also sometimes referred to as the deluge valve. The system gives us protection against intense heat if we were to launch into a fire. Prior to launching, I will give the command, water on. This means for the person sitting here to open the valve by rotating it to release the water supply. Ready? Water on. Once the valve has been turned on, I need you to confirm to me that this has been done by responding, water on. Is this clear? Now we're going to move you to the fifth seat on the starboard side, which will be your launch seat. When I am ready to launch, you will hear me shout, "Is anyone not ready?" If I hear nothing, then I will continue with the launch process. If you are not ready, for example, if you are still unable to fasten your harness, then you must tell me immediately. From this point onwards, you must prepare for launch by keeping the back of your head flat against your headrest and grasping the handles on the seat in front of you with both hands in a braced position. Grab these handles now. When I trigger the launch, you will hear me say, "Everyone secure, launching, launching." When the craft launches, you will hear the holding mechanisms around the craft release, and you will feel yourself being lifted from your seat as the craft begins to freefall. You will be pushed back into the seat when we come into contact with the surface of the water. Ready? Everyone secure, launching, launching. Maintain the brace position until the craft has stabilized on the surface and keep your harness secured. I will then maneuver us away from the area to a safe distance. You may experience disorientation, dizziness, or nausea. This is normal. Remain in your seat unless I instruct you otherwise. You may now release the handles. As I maneuver the craft, I will communicate with other vessels and search and rescue authorities to arrange recovery as soon as possible. Let's see what you can remember. If there's anything you're unsure about, then repeat the training. You can repeat the training a number of times if required, and will not be penalized for doing so.